Stop. The 9-minute window is already open, and the Arcturian field observers have already flagged your coherence pattern as incomplete. This transmission was not placed in your path by chance. The Arcturian field observers have been monitoring a specific class of energetic signatures, fields that are mid-transition, partially locked, holding coherence at an unstable frequency, and yours matched. The algorithm only delivered this moment. It did not create it. Something in your field pulled this transmission toward you, because the quantum coherence locking cycle has entered its final authorization phase, and your pattern has not yet been sealed. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly what is happening to you now, why your field has been holding at an uncertain frequency, and what the Arcturian field observers already know about this locking phase. But here is the first revelation. The confusion, the instability, the sense that something is suspended and unresolved in your life right now. That is not failure. That is the visible symptom of a field that is midlock. You are not broken. You are incomplete in a process that has a precise window, and that window is closing in 9 minutes. What you call uncertainty is often the first readable sign of a coherence pattern that has not yet been authorized to set. The field changed first. The visible life followed. And if the lock completes at the wrong frequency, at whatever unstable midstate your field is currently holding, the pattern becomes fixed until the next cosmic alignment cycle, which is typically months away. This is not a metaphor. This is a field protocol the Arcturian observers have already mapped, and they have issued the precise 9-minute sequence that can complete the lock at the highest frequency currently accessible to you. This is not just information. It is a live transmission for those already inside the shift. Like this transmission, if you can feel that something invisible has already changed. Comment 111 if you know this message reached you at the exact right moment. Subscribe to Arcturian Quantum if you are ready to understand the process instead of fearing it. You are guided here because the signal is already active. What is happening to you right now is not confusion in the ordinary sense. It is not anxiety in the clinical sense. It is not the natural discomfort of a difficult season or the consequence of poor decisions accumulating into disorder. What you are experiencing, the suspended quality of your days, the sense that you are standing between two versions of your life without being able to see clearly into either one, has a precise name inside Arcturian field mapping. It is called midlock drift, and it is one of the most identifiable, most documentable, and most frequently misread states a human field can enter. Midlock drift occurs when a field has already changed at the frequency level, but the visible structures of the person's life have not yet reorganized to match the new signal. The internal architecture shifts first. The external evidence comes later. Think of a building whose foundation has been replaced in the night. The walls still stand. The furniture still sits where it always sat, but something underneath no longer matches what is above. The occupant wakes to a space that looks identical but carries a different load. That is the experience of midlock drift from inside it. And the gap between those two moments, the space where the old signal no longer holds and the new one has not yet been authorized to set. That gap is exactly where you are standing right now. That suspended quality you have been living inside is not a malfunction. It is a symptom of a real and active process. The field moved first. the life has not yet caught up. And until the lock completes at the correct frequency, you will continue to feel what you have been feeling. Something unresolved, something held just beneath the surface, something waiting for a signal that has not yet arrived. The Arcturian observers have mapped this state in thousands of energetic fields across multiple transition cycles. They have identified what happens when a field that has entered midlock drift completes the lock at the wrong frequency, at whatever unstable, fragmented, or fear-saturated state the person happens to be holding when the window closes. The result is not catastrophic in the visible sense. The person continues their life. They get up in the morning. They move through their obligations. From the outside, nothing dramatic appears to have occurred, but they continue along a line that no longer matches what their field was attempting to reach. The trajectory becomes misaligned. Old patterns that should have collapsed are preserved instead, sealed in place by a lock that's set at the wrong frequency. New possibilities that were already moving toward that field become inaccessible, not permanently, but until the next alignment cycle creates another opening. And those cycles, as the observers have documented, do not return quickly. A person can spend years inside a trajectory that was never meant to be their permanent line, simply because the lock completed in a moment of fear rather than a moment of recognition. This is why the transmission you are watching now was flagged for your field specifically, not because an algorithm made a fortunate guess, but because your coherence pattern, when measured against the current locking cycle, showed a field that has not yet been sealed. A field that is still inside the window, still eligible for the highest frequency completion, still capable of completing the lock at a level that changes the old one. The observers do not issue flags like this routinely. The threshold for this kind of intervention is specific. Your pattern crossed it, and the window is already open. Let us be precise about what you have been experiencing, because precision matters here more than comfort. The instability you have felt in your sleeping hours, the disrupted rest, the dreams that feel less like dreaming and more like processing, the waking at unusual hours with a sense of alert attention you cannot explain. That is not a health symptom in isolation. It is the nervous system registering a frequency shift that the conscious mind has not yet been given the language to interpret. The body knows before the mind does. It has always known. It is built to receive signals the conscious architecture cannot yet decode, and during a mid-lock phase, those signals arrive constantly, arriving in the early hours of the morning, arriving as a kind of pressure behind the sternum that has no medical name, arriving as that strange sense of standing at the edge of something enormous without being able to see over it. When a field enters the midlock phase, the body becomes a receiver that is picking up a new signal while still running the old architecture. The result is a kind of internal interference. The system cannot settle because it is processing two incompatible frequencies simultaneously. This is measurable, this is documentable, and this is what the observers identified in your field before this transmission was directed toward you. The mental fragmentation you have experienced, the inability to concentrate with the same precision you once had, the way a thought begins and then dissolves before it reaches completion, the sense that your mind is simultaneously overfull and strangely empty. That is also part of the midlock signature. It is not a symptom of burnout. It is not evidence of diminished capacity. It is the field in active refusal. The old mental frameworks are losing coherence because the field is withdrawing its authorization from them. The interpretive structures you use to understand your experience, to make decisions, to move through your days with a sense of confident direction, have been weakened at the root. Not because you are declining, because the field is refusing to authorize them any further. A field in midlock transition begins to reject the patterns that belong to the old frequency. It does this before the conscious mind understands why. The mind experiences this as fragmentation. The field is actually clearing space for a new coherence architecture to install. But if the lock completes at the wrong moment, at the wrong frequency, the clearing never finishes. The new architecture never installs, and the person is left in a permanent state of partial coherence, clear enough to feel wrong, not clear enough to understand why. Caught between what no longer works and what has not yet arrived. That is the cost of a misaligned lock. That is what the observers are working to prevent by delivering this transmission inside this window. The disruption in your relationships during this period is not accidental either. People around you may have felt inexplicably distant, not estranged in the dramatic sense, but somehow further away than the physical space between you, as though a membrane had quietly installed itself, and the sound of their voices was arriving from the other side of it. Conversations that once carried meaning may have begun to feel hollow, not because those people have changed, because the frequency you are now holding makes certain resonances audible and renders others inert. Connections that once anchored you may have begun to feel like they are pulling you in a direction that no longer fits the signal your field is trying to reach. This is not projection. This is not emotional volatility. This is frequency mismatching at the level of field interaction. When a field enters a locking cycle at a higher frequency than it has previously held, the relationships, environments, and thought patterns that belonged to the old frequency begin to feel incompatible, not because they are wrong in themselves, but because they are calibrated to a version of you that the field is in the process of leaving behind. The field is not rejecting the people. It is registering that the resonance no longer aligns with the trajectory the correction is trying to complete. Some of those relationships will adjust as the lock completes. Some will not. But the discomfort you have been feeling inside those connections during this period is not evidence that something has gone wrong with you. It is evidence that your field has already moved. The relationships are simply catching up, or not, to where the frequency has already gone. What you are feeling right now is not ordinary recognition. It is the moment your field stops denying what has already begun. If this transmission put language around something you have been carrying in silence, Arcturian protocol, the recalibration blueprint, was created for this exact stage. It is not another explanation. It is the guided blueprint for those whose field has already entered correction and can no longer return to the old line unchanged. It shows you how to recognize the phases, stabilize the shift, and move through the recalibration without mistaking it for collapse. The link is in the first pinned comment, but it will not remain there forever. There is a phase in the locking cycle that the observers have identified as the threshold of false termination. It is the moment when a field in midlock drift begins to interpret its own correction as failure. This is perhaps the most dangerous moment in the entire process, not because the field is in danger of permanent damage, but because the decisions a person makes from this interpretation can accelerate the lock at the wrong frequency. When a person in mid-lock drift begins to believe that what they are experiencing is evidence of personal failure, they begin to make choices designed to stabilize the old architecture rather than allow the new one to install. They return to patterns that no longer serve the field. They reach for relationships, habits, identities, and routines that belong to the old frequency because those things feel familiar, and familiar feels safer than the suspended uncertainty of the midlock state. This is the gravitational pull of a known frequency. Even when that frequency no longer matches where the field is heading, it exerts force. It says, "Come back. This is solid ground. This is what you know." And the person, exhausted by the suspension and frightened by the fragmentation, reaches for it. Every time they do, the lock is pulled slightly further from the highest available frequency. The window narrows. The observers watch this happen repeatedly in fields that were otherwise positioned for a complete and elevated lock. Fields with extraordinary trajectory potential, narrowed by choices made not from malice, but from the unbearable weight of not understanding what was happening. You have likely already made some of those choices. This is not a condemnation. It is a recognition. Because making those choices is one of the most predictable symptoms of the midlock state. The field is experiencing something it has no framework to interpret. The mind reaches for whatever it knows. The result is a temporary stabilization that costs the field its trajectory. If you recognized yourself in that description, what you are feeling right now is not guilt. It is the first sign of a new level of clarity. The recognition that the choices made from fear during a midlock phase are not permanent damage. They are patterns that can be interrupted before the window closes. The field has not been permanently redirected by those choices. The lock has not yet set. You are still inside the window. That is the only reason this transmission was directed to you at this moment. The observers have also mapped what they call the anchor dissolution sequence. This is the phase where the things that once gave you a stable sense of direction, your goals, your identity frameworks, your sense of purpose, the story you told yourself about where you were going and why, begin to lose their grip. Not all at once, not dramatically, but steadily, quietly, with a creeping quality that makes you wonder at some point whether you ever believed in those things as deeply as you thought you did. There is a particular loneliness to this phase. Not the loneliness of being without people, but the loneliness of no longer being fully legible to yourself. The person you were when you built those goals, when you inhabited those identity structures with confidence, when you told that story about your life and believed it completely, that person's frequency no longer matches what the field is currently running. And so those anchors feel not like solid ground, but like ropes tied to structures that are slowly sinking. The anchor dissolution sequence is not the universe taking something from you. It is the field releasing structures that cannot survive the frequency the lock is attempting to reach. An anchor that was built at a lower frequency will not hold at a higher one. The field knows this. The correction removes what cannot make the transition. And the person not understanding this experiences the loss as theft rather than preparation. This is one of the most significant reframings available inside the Arcturian observational record. What left your life in this period? Whether it left quietly or violently, whether it went without explanation or with enormous disruption. Left because it had already become incompatible with the frequency the correction was targeting. The departure was not punishment. It was not randomness. It was not a signal that you had failed to hold what mattered. It was the field clearing its trajectory of what could not make the crossing. A vessel preparing for deep water releases what was appropriate for shallower routes. The departure of those things was not abandonment, it was preparation. The grief you may feel about those departures is real. It is allowed, but it is grief over the loss of what was already incompatible, not evidence that you were abandoned, overlooked, or found lacking by a universe that has stopped caring about your trajectory. And here is what the observers know that most people in midlock drift never discover before the window closes. The silence inside the correction is not emptiness. The suspension is not stagnation. The confusion is not disorder. These are all readable states inside a process that has precise logic, precise window. When a field has cleared its old anchors and has not yet installed its new coherence architecture, it enters a state that feels like nothing, like absence, like a life that has been hollowed out without explanation, a room from which all furniture has been removed, but into which nothing new has yet arrived. The walls are still standing. The space is intact, but there is nothing to interact with, nothing to confirm that the clearing was purposeful rather than simply loss. Most people interpret this as rock bottom, as proof that they have arrived at their lowest point, as evidence that something has permanently broken inside them. But the observers document this state as signal clearing. It is the phase between the removal of what could not remain and the installation of what is being prepared to arrive. The silence is not the end of the process. It is the precise midpoint. It is the breath between the old signal going quiet and the new signal receiving authorization to broadcast. And the people who understand it as such, who do not catastrophize it, who do not reach backward into the old architecture in desperation, who do not allow fear to pull the lock toward a lower frequency in this exact phase. Those are the fields that complete the locking cycle at the highest available frequency. Those are the fields whose trajectories change completely from this point forward. Not gradually, not incrementally, but at the level of fundamental line shift. The kind of shift that when looked back upon from months or years forward is recognizable as the moment everything became different. You are not losing your mind. You are not watching your life dissolve into irreversible disorder. You are not being punished by the universe or abandoned by forces you thought were guiding you. You are in a coherence locking cycle that began before you had language for it. That has been moving through precise and documentable phases that you have been living through without a map. And that is now approaching its final authorization window. Every symptom you have been carrying, the disrupted sleep, the mental fragmentation, the hollowed sense of direction, the relationship distance, the silence that felt like emptiness, has been a phase marker. Each one announced the next. Each one was the process communicating in the only language available, when no external map has been provided. The Arcturian observers did not flag your field because something was wrong with it. They flagged it because the correction is real, the window is open, and the pattern has not yet been sealed. What locks in this window will determine the line you continue from, not metaphorically, not spiritually in the vague sense, in the precise sense of what frequencies become available to you. which trajectories remain accessible, and which version of the life your field was attempting to reach will or will not be achievable in this cycle. The stakes of a locking window are not abstract. They are specific to your field, to this cycle, to the exact frequency your pattern is currently holding, and what it is still capable of reaching before the window closes. This is the moment the transmission was delivered for. Not to comfort you, not to tell you that everything will be fine regardless of what you do, but to tell you with precision that what you do inside this window, how you interpret the process, how you respond to the correction, whether you allow the lock to complete at the highest frequency or pull it back toward the old, familiar, but misaligned pattern, that is what matters right now. Nothing else in this moment carries more consequence for the direction your field takes from here. The field changed first. The visible life followed. The confusion, the fragmentation, the lost anchors, the suspended silence. These were not chaos. They were the sequence. Each phase arrived in order. Each phase served the next. And you are now at the point in the sequence where recognition itself becomes part of the correction, where understanding what is happening stops the field from locking at the wrong frequency, where clarity arrived at inside the window becomes the signal that authorizes the highest available lock. Recognition is not a passive event in this framework. It is an input. It registers in the field. It changes what the field is sending into the locking cycle at the moment of final authorization. Speak this aloud if it moves through you clearly. I do not fear the shift. I recognize it, not as a comfort, not as a wish, as a field instruction. Because recognition in the Arcturian observational framework is not passive. It is an active frequency input. When you name the process correctly, you alter the signal the field is sending into the locking cycle. When you stop calling correction by the name of collapse, the field stops receiving collapse as its primary frequency input. When you stop interpreting the silence as failure and begin reading it as midpoint, the field registers a different authorization signal entirely. And the lock, still open, still eligible, still inside this window, begins to move toward its highest available completion. The window does not require perfection from you. It does not require that you have navigated every phase without reaching backward, without making choices from fear, without mistaking the process for disorder. It requires only that you arrive at recognition before it closes, that you name what is happening with enough accuracy that the field receives clarity as its final input before the lock sets. That is what this transmission was designed to deliver. And if you are still here, still watching, still feeling the resonance of what is being mapped, then the recognition has already begun to move through you. The field is already receiving it. The window is still open, and the lock is moving toward its highest available frequency right now. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that this process has already touched your life. It could be your sleep, your thoughts, your body, your relationships, or the strange sense that reality no longer feels the same. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognized something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who is living through a shift they cannot explain. And if you are ready to understand the process instead of fearing it, subscribe to Arcturian Quantum. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a process already in motion. And this is only the beginning.